Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Chapter 2, Understanding Structure, Patterns of Organization and Supporting Details. Recognizing patterns of organization. Pattern of organization can apply to the whole reading. You learn that the brain requires organization to learn most effectively. You will be able to recognize the organization that the author intends. You can use the pattern of organization to see the relationship between the key ideas and to move the information from your working memory to your long-term memory and then retrieve it or learn it most effectively. The importance of pattern of organization. Organization patterns are important for a reader to recognize because they reveal how an author arranged the information in the passage, which allows you to understand. Furthermore, if you don't have much background knowledge about the topic of the reading, looking for the pattern of organization will help you because if you can follow the author's train of thought more effectively, you will have less difficulty to comprehend the reading and you can focus the key points. The skeleton of text is known by several names: organizational patterns, pattern organization, author's writing patterns, rhetorical modes, and writing structure, depending on the class and which the topic is discussed. In reading classes, pattern of organization is the most common name in English class. Writing patterns and rhetorical modes are the most common names. Whatever the name, the central idea remains the same. Benefit of recognizing pattern of organization. Learning how to recognize pattern of organization and reading will help you: number 1, comprehend the material; number 2, process the information into your memory; number 3, retrieve the information learned from your long-term memory; number 4, understand how the structure your notes or graphic organizer to study in the information; number 5, understand what probably question you will be asked on the test; number 6, understand how to structure written responses to the test question. How to view patterns of organization. Pattern of organization, like a topic, can apply to the whole reading, a subsection of a reading, or a paragraph. Patterns of organization can also help you to see the relationship between the ideas and the sentences. There are 4 ways you can see a pattern of organization, from a larger to smaller perspective, as you can see in the figure 2.2. Think of the outside ring as the most general overall pattern. The inside ring is the most detailed or the specific pattern. What function do pattern of organization serve? Pattern of organization function to provide a structure, then a reading, a subsection, a paragraph, or the interrelationship between ideas and sentences in a paragraph. Pattern of organization also help you determine the main details and passages that support the main point. These main details within a reading are called supporting details because they support the author's most important point about the topic. These supporting details are arranged in the reading according to the pattern of organization. The role of transition word. Remember how helpful transition words are to finding out the meaning of a word you don't know. They will prove even more helpful you in understanding the structure and ideas in a reading. Transition or signal words are the words or phrases writers use to introduce the reader to the thought pattern or pattern of organization and the writing and between the ideas within the reading, between the writing. The prefix trans means across. When you make a transition from high school to college, you bridge the gap between the 2 levels. Transition words then the link ideas in a logical progression from one idea to the other. These words will look familiar to you because they are used frequently in writing to make the ideas flow together and to indicate the important points. Transition words or phrases are also called signal words or phrases because they are signal how the author is arranging ideas. Later you will find lists of transition words for each type of pattern of organization. First, transition words function to show the relationship within a sentence, a paragraph, a subsection, or entire reading. Transition words also introduce supporting details. In addition, these words help ideas flow more smoothly in writing. Furthermore, transition words improve understanding between connected thoughts and provide and indicate a logical organization between ideas in a reading. In short, they function to lubricate the parts of a reading to make them work smoothly together. As a result, your understanding of these ideas proceeds smoothly in your mind while you are reading. Supporting details. In the paragraphs about transition words and phrases, several main points were made, signaled by transition words. You could ask the question, what is the role of transition words? And this would be your list of answers. Number 1. They show the relationship within a sentence, within a paragraph, or within a whole reading. Number 2. They introduce supporting details. Number 3. They help ideas flow more smoothly in writing. Number 4. They improve understanding between connected thoughts and indicate a logical organization between the ideas in a reading. Number 5. They facilitate the comprehension of these ideas to connect more smoothly in your mind while reading. Major and minor details. Details that support the author's most important point or supporting details can be classified as either major details or minor details. Major details are the main points to support the overall point of the reading. Then minor details are the more specific points that support the major points, usually by providing example of the major details. Read the following paragraph and underline the transition words as you read. Example text: combating stress. There are several ways to minimize stress in your life. First, make exercise regular habit at least 3 times per week. Exercise relaxes endorphins that improve mood. Exercise also improves vascular health and overall fitness. Another good preventative measure is taking stock of interval stressors you can control. Use meditation techniques when overwhelmed and make sure to get sufficient rest to alleviate internal negative talk. Last, make sure to take time out of your busy schedule to do things that you enjoy. When stress builds up, time with family or friends can help reduce its effects. Similarly, regularly pursuing hobbies and other pleasurable interests serve to dismiss the build-up of everyday stress and strains. Main point: there are several ways to minimize stress in your life. First, major supporting details. First, make exercise regular habit at least 3 times per week. First, minor details: exercise releases endorphin that improve mood. Second, minor details: exercise also improve vascular health and overall fitness. Second, major supporting details. Another good preventive measure is taking stock in the internal stressors you can control. Minor detail: use meditation technique when overwhelmed and make sure to get sufficient rest to alleviate internal negative talk. Third, major supporting detail. Last, make sure to time out of your busy schedule to do things that you enjoy. First, minor details: when stress builds up, time with family or friends can help reduce its effects. Second, minor details: similarly, regularly pursuing hobbies and other pleasurable interests serve to dismiss the build-up of everyday stresses and strain. See now the minor details function to provide further information about the major details. The major details in turn provide support for the topic of the paragraph. Supporting details provide information to support overall topic. Think of the arrows as the transition words that help the mechanism work smoothly. Topic, major details, and minor details. Categories of organizational patterns. There are 3 main categories of organization pattern: pattern that list, pattern that explain, and patterns that analyze. Let's see. Pattern that list consists of random order list, simple listing, and then specific order list consists of order of importance, chronological order, sequence or process order, and then spatial order. And then pattern that explain consists of example or illustration or clarification, definition and example, and description. And then pattern that analyze consists of division, cause and or effect, and then problem and or solution, and then compare and or contrast. Tips for talking with your teen. Here is the example. Developing open, trusting communication between you and your child is essential to help him or her to avoid alcohol use. If your child feels comfortable talking openly with you, you will have a greater chance of guiding him or her toward a healthy decision making. Some ways to begin. Encourage conversation. Encourage your child to talk about whatever interests him or her. Listen without interruption and give your child a chance to teach you something new. Your active listening to your child enthusiasm paves the way for conversation about topics that concern you. Ask open-ended questions. Encourage your teen to tell you how he or she thinks and feels about the issues you are discussing. Avoid questions that have simple yes or no answer. Control your emotion. If you hear something you don't like, try not to respond with anger. Instead, take a new deep breath and acknowledge your feelings in a constructive way. Make every conversation a win-win experience. Don't lecture or try to score points or your teen by showing how he or she is wrong. If you show respect to your child's viewpoints, he or she will be more likely to listen and to respect yours. Tips for talking to teens about alcohol use. Encourage conversation, ask open-ended questions, control your emotion, and make every conversation a win-win experience. Transition or signal words that indicate patterns that lead. Pattern of organization. Simple listening. Signal words. Random order. Also another in addition, first, second, third. For example, punctuation. Use bullets, dashes, numbers. 1, 2, 3 letters A, B, C, and then specific orders. Order of importance. Most important, finally, primarily. Chronological order. First, second, third, next, then, and etc. Sequence or process order. First, second, next, then, finally, initially, follows, followed by, etc. Spatial order. To the left, to the right, above, below, next, to, around, opposite, ahead, north, south, etc. Supporting details and specific order. Order of importance. Order of importance means that the item in the list need to be in specific order to confine the author's point. Usually, the least point is the most important reason for, or an example of, the author's main point. There are three memory tricks of using mnemonic devices, but association and visualization can be in any order and still make sense, but the last item, repetition, is put at the end of the sentence because it's the most important point. Here is the passage order of importance from the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism website on alcohol poisoning. Let's see the example. What can happen to someone with alcohol poisoning that goes untreated? You can read by yourself. Let's see the background about alcohol poisoning. Okay, go on. Chronological order. Chronological order shows that something unfolds over time. The item in the list need to be in this order to make sense, such as event in history that occurs over time. Example: first, take thorough notes during class, then review class note immediately after class. Afterwards, as soon as you have a chance, rewrite your notes to aid in learning the main points. Notice how you are advised to review notes first, right after class, and then to rewrite the notes later in the day. This event must occur in this order because you cannot review and rewrite your notes until you have actually taken the notes. Here's the passage from Frontline on the PBS website titled Heroin in the Brain. Its chemistry and effects. The topic is heroin withdrawal. What is the timeline for the withdrawal? You can read by yourself. Heroin withdrawal. And then there is the background to emphasize the text. You can pause if you need and you can go on. Sequence or process order. Sequence or process order, like chronological order, indicates that certain steps need to be followed in a specific order for the result to make sense, such as the step in the recipe or stages or growth or development. The difference between chronological order and sequence or process order is the subject matter. In sequence or process order, the author uses stages or steps rather than a clear timeline and hours, weeks, or days. Example: initially, information goes into sensory memory, and if the accepted information then is processed in the short-term memory. Next, information is stored in the long-term memory and can be learned if followed by repetitive study. And then following is a brief reading about the stages or steps in the process to relieve stress through relaxation. Like chronological or time order, the progression needs to be in a certain order. Unlike time order, specific reference to time are not included. Instead, the process is emphasized. Read by yourself. You can pause by your if you need, and then you can see in the underline to show the chronological order here. Okay, I will go on. Spatial or place order. Spatial or place order shows an organized format for describing or making points about something, usually a three-dimensional space such as a place. Description may be organized from front to back, left to right, north to south, and bottom to top. This organization allows the points to be made in a coherent, structured fashion. Example: continuing from the brain stem at the back of the brain structure and near the base of the spinal cord is the amygdala. The organization of the information leads the readers to visualize the structure of the brain from the brain stem at the back moving upward. Here's a map from BBC News showing the flow of opium and heroin to the United Kingdom. You can read and analyze the text and analyze the picture. Pause if you need. And then, what is a list? A list? When is a list? A list, when you encounter a list of something, ask yourself, do the items in the list need to be in a certain order to make sense? If so, the pattern is order of importance, chronological order, sequence or process order, or spatial order. If not, the pattern is a simple listing. Do the item in the list need to be in a certain order or make sense? The answer can be yes. If yes, order of importance, chronological order, sequence or process order, or spatial order. If no, simple listing. Patterns that explains. Patterns that explain include example or illustration or clarification, definition, and description. These patterns allows an author to make a point and then elaborate on a further explain that point to make sure the reader understands. Table 2.2 shows transition or signal words that indicate pattern that explain. An example or illustration or clarification we can use, for example, to illustrate, to clarify, for instance, in other words, that is to say, to put it another way. And then for definition on example, punctuation following by a bold-faced term, dash, comma, colon, parenthesis, and then italics of terms is defined as, is known as, means, is. And then description, okay, we can use adjectives that describe, for example, nice, colorful, misty, gloomy, etc., to support the dominant impression or feeling about the topic. Example of illustration. Example of illustration or clarification occurs when the author makes a point, usually a complex point, and uses the rest of paragraph to make sure the reader sees the importance of the point. This organizational pattern is used most often in longer passages where an author makes a point in a paragraph, then uses the following paragraph to elaborate upon and clarify the first point. Example: space practice aids in learning. For example, imagine pocket of time during your day that could be used for study. You may find 10 minutes between classes to review vocabulary, or you may use the bus ride to or from school to preview a chapter. Here's another example of an example or clarification pattern of organization from the National Institute on Drug Abuse concerning inhalant use among teenagers. You can read by yourself. Pause if you need. Go on to definition and example. Definition is commonly used in concept dense text or writing with many complicated ideas. This pattern is useful for stating or concept or meaning of words and then providing examples to further explain the concept. The item itself is often in special print such as boldface, italics, or color. Definition pattern of organization always contain a definition vocabulary context clue. Following is another example from medicine about a common type of fear, claustrophobia. Read by yourself, pause if you need. Go on to description. Description is used when an author describes a person, place, or thing with this pattern. The author uses sensory details to paint a mental picture for the reader or subject to create a dominant impression. A sensory details is a description that relates to one of the five senses: smell, sight, hearing, taste, touch. A dominant impression, the emotional mood or feeling of the passage, is created through the use of sensory details. If there are many adjectives that describe the topic of the passage, this would indicate description. Yes, the example that you can read and analyze. Pause if you need. Next, go on to pattern that analyze. Pattern that analyze a division or classification, cause and effect, problems and solution, and comparison and contrast. Analysis is the act of looking at the parts of an entity and where they fit to understand the big picture. Each of these patterns shows the relationship between two or more distinct features. Review the signal words that indicate patterns that analyze in table 2.3. Division and classification. Division and classification patterns simplify a difficult concept by breaking down the complex idea into manageable parts or categories. This type of pattern is common in college 100 level classes because introductory classes function largely to introduce you to the vocabulary of the discipline. Patterns that provide terminology and put concepts into categories are common. Because classification involves introduction to the vocabulary or a discipline, this pattern also tends to contain definition clues. However, this pattern is different from definition and example patterns because the supporting details are specifically there are to show the different categories or to divide a concept into different groups or types. Consider this passage where the author classifies or defines immediately memory into two types. Read by yourself and analyze. Pause if you need. Go on to cause and effect. Cause and effect patterns show causes of a situation or phenomenon or the effect of result as a situational or phenomenon to show the relationship between ideas. Some passages may show both causes or effects. You can read and analyze. Pause if you need. Yes, and analyzing. Yes, another example using cause of college drinking. Okay, go on to the consider following reading. Read by yourself. Read again. Another example. Okay, go on to comparison and contrast. Comparison and contrast show similarities or differences between two or more concepts or entities. The paragraph and or passage usually emphasizes similarities. It's called by comparison, or differences caused by contrast. The following passage from the National Institute on Drug Abuse contrasts amphetamine, and cocaine. You can read by yourself. And then here is the illustration about the text that you have read. And then here is the example shows comparison followed by the diagram. Okay, now quick steps to determining organizational pattern. To determine organizational pattern or structure, follow these steps. When determining structural pattern of reading, ask yourself, what is the author trying to do? List, explain, or analyze. If your answer to question number 1 is list, does the reading list? And then if your answer to question 1 is the passage explains something, is a general point, definition given, and description of the topic presented using adjective. And then if your answer to question 1 is that the passage is analyzing something, does it break a big concept and then show cause or effect, outline a problem and its solution, and show comparison or contrast. Quick tips: pattern of organization facts. There are an overall topic, structure, and point on reading and its entirely. There is an overall topic, structure, and point to its subsection in a textbook chapter. There is an overall topic, structure, and point to its paragraph. And then when in doubt, or if there seem to be 2 or more possible patterns in a section of text, go with the one that seems to be predominant. Relationship between ideas. Now that you have developed skills to see in the skeleton of big picture or the pattern of organization in a reading, you will learn to see relationship between ideas or the small picture, between sentences, and within a paragraph and section of a reading. The skill of seeing both the big picture and small picture are vital to understanding what you read. Developing the skill will make pinpointing that author's most important point or main idea far or less perplexing. Relationship between ideas can be defined as the author's arrangement of supporting details in a reading, often indicated by transition words or phrases that clarify, reflect, and support the most important point. Sometimes the author does not use the transition word, but there is still a relationship between the ideas. In this case, you need to infer or make an educated guess about the relationship by applying what you already know. You can read the whole reading to see the structure, and then a section of a paragraph, and between and among sentences. Paraphrase to aid comprehension. Paraphrasing proves you comprehended what you read. Paraphrasing helps you understand subtitle relationship between ideas in a sentence. Paraphrasing helps you remember and learn the new information about which you are reading. Good versus poor paraphrases. Good paraphrase is the same length as the original, uses key terms, reference the author and title, cuts out unnecessary information, puts ideas into new wording that communicate the same point, includes all the major and minor supporting details. And then poor paraphrase is much shorter or longer than the original, does not use key terms, does not reference the author and title, includes unnecessary information, consistently uses the same wording as the original, therefore doesn't paraphrase, excludes some major and minor details. Yes, quick tips to summarize from the versus between good and poor paraphrases. To paraphrase a reading, following this step: read the original passage without looking back at the original. Try to formulate your rewording of the ideas. Write down your paraphrase and then go back and reread original, checking to make sure the basic idea is the same. Identifying prefix and suffix. Just you can determine a structure of reading, you can also identify the structure of a word. Your first strategy when figuring out words with which you are not familiar is to look at clues in surrounding environment, surrounding information. Contact clues as you learn in chapter 1. Another strategy to pay attention to the parts of these noun words that may give you clues to understanding its meaning. You don't necessarily have to memorize lists of words parts to use strategy. In fact, your very best chance at expanding your reading and speaking vocabulary is to read. Most people who read for about half hour each day for a year increase their vocabulary by over 1000 words. What parts are called affixes? There are three parts of words you should be aware of. Number one is prefix, which are at the beginning of words, and then suffix, which are at the end of words, and then roots, which are in the middle of the words. Prefix are the parts of the words that come at the beginning of the word. The prefix is found at the beginning of word. There are a context clue, an occurrence clue, yet the prefix is somehow associated with the beginning to clarify the guess. Think about the outer words you know that contain predict, presume, and etc. What do all these words have in common? They all have to do with something contact before, such as predict, which means the state or make known is advanced. Presume means they assume to take for granted. Here's other example using in the sentences. Okay, here is the prefix, the list of prefix, and then the meaning, and then the example, and the word, and what other words you do know that use this prefix. You can make it or list it in a piece of paper. Okay, here's the common prefix, and then meaning, example, and you can make others by write down in your paper. And then suffix are the part of the words that come at the end of the word. Suffix are useful to notice because you can indicate the part of speech of words, like whether it is an adjective, noun, adverb, or verb. Look at these examples. Beautiful, the suffix is full, indicates an adjective form, and then beautifully, the suffix ly indicates that the word describe how an action was done. So beautifully is an adverb. Notice how you can convert the following words to another part of speech using a different suffix. Here's the example. Thank you for your nice attention. Please give any comment if you